Hello and welcome to Horsemanship with Kim Samitore. Today we are putting the first ride on our 3-year-old filly named Philly. She's been doing really well. This is week 4 of her training, and you'll see her here just touching up on some of her groundwork skills before we get up and ride her. So the bouncing ball is a de-spooking device. Get her used to things moving around her feet, get her to pay attention to what we're doing, and just generally see how she reacts to a moving object moving on both sides of her. The nice thing about this horse is she's really curious, she's not afraid, she's really turning to look and see what that ball is all about. And so before we get on and ride her, I'm going to lunge her around the pen, make sure that she's ready to be ridden, the saddle's not pinching anywhere, she's relaxed, has a little time to move her feet, and basically get any little bucks or quirks or anything out of her. This filly hasn't shown any of that under saddle, just lunging so far, so I expect this first ride to go very well. Some things that we've been working through over the last week prior to this have been respect in the round pen. Philly gave me a little bit of a challenge on the ground. So we had about a week that we had to regroup and get back to where we were ground driving. She decided that she wanted to see if she could become dominant over the herd, which is a normal growing pain as horses are being trained. And so what I did is I just took her back to basic groundwork, lunging, and worked through that last week. And she came along with flying colors and is doing great. Don't have any issues with her now. And so the day before this video was shot, she was saddled and lunged and ground driven to make sure that she was in fact back where we were before we had to take a regroup moment. And so here we are today, where I'm feeling really confident that she's ready to be rode. And before we ride her, I'm going to put the ground driving lines on her and just brush up on what we've been doing. So this is still very familiar to her. She's going to understand how to stop, steer, and turn. She starts to walk off a little bit too soon there with that rope flipping her on the bum. So I'm going to ask her to stop and wait, to be patient. This would be exactly what would happen if I tried to get on her. I would stop and not mount her until she can stand still for mounting. So that's what I'm doing for this exercise here, is basically getting her to focus and stand still and wait for me to tell her that we're going to begin working. And flapping the ropes against her sides is going to give her an introduction to what will later be my legs in the stirrups, asking her to move forward. And she'll be driven on the ground with direct rein contact. So the right rein is going to tip her nose to the right, and the left rein is going to tip her nose to the left to turn. And we can add a little bit of pressure using the opposite rein, flapping against her sides just like we would our leg, to help her make those turns as well. The main thing when you're ground driving a horse is you want to make sure that you keep a safe distance, so that if they did kick out or buck or rear or do anything unpredictable, that you are going to be out of striking range. As you can see, I'm standing most of the time about a 45-degree angle to her hip. And then you also have to watch those driving lines that they don't get you around the legs. Philly's working at a nice pace here, trotting and walking. Seems pretty focused, pretty relaxed. She's responding to cues really well. There's just a great start here for the day. And Philly is a little bit on the lazy side at this point. And I think some of that is just that she's young and needs a little bit more understanding about how to move away from pressure. And as we progress to riding her in her saddle, that will come. My main goal with any of the horses that I work with is to not go faster than they're ready for. So I work on keeping a slow, steady training pace so that they're not scared into doing anything. There's still a lot of structure, and we follow my rules. And I am, of course, the herd leader, but I don't try to stress them out. So if she doesn't understand what we're going to do, and you'll see that later in the video here when I get on her at first, she doesn't quite know what to do with me on her back. But waiting is a really good tool in my toolbox with this horse here. And encouraging her and then waiting for her to respond so that she clearly understands and is not being forced to do something under pressure in flight mode. That is the goal. I cannot teach a horse if their brain is in flight mode. I can force them to do things if their brain is in flight mode, but they won't gain true understanding if they're in flight mode when they're doing that thing. And you want to be sure and to give lots of praise while you're working with the horse. So I'm going to get ready to get on her. I'm flapping the stirrups just to double check that she's okay with those banging against her sides, making noise. I'm going to step up in the stirrup, put my weight in it, bounce her around a little bit, pop her on the bum, lean over one side as if my leg was going over. And then whatever we do to one side, I will do to the other side. And you do see that I am wearing a protective helmet in this video. I believe in protecting your body parts when working with these young horses. So I always will be riding these young colts in a riding helmet. Just in case. My plan is to plan for the best, but be prepared for the worst. And I don't expect anything bad out of Philly, but I'd rather be prepared. So again, what we did to the near side, we're going to do to the off side. And the reason I throw a leg over on both sides and sit and then come down is I want to relieve the pressure for Philly as a reward, that she stood nice and still and calm while I sat in the saddle with nothing bothering her one bit. So the release was me getting off, her being rewarded and going, okay, I understand, this isn't scary at all. And so this time I'm going to get up and I'm going to stay up. And I'm going to shift around in the saddle a little bit, pet her, make her feel real comfortable. This is the first time that we're going to ask her to move off from pressure without anyone leading her or driving her from the ground. So the communication here is a little bit different because Philly is starting to fly solo here with not having a visual reference of a person working her on the ground. So at first I'm going to pet her, make sure she's feeling comfortable and relaxed, have confidence. I'm going to start cueing her like I did with the ground driving lines by voice commands and see if she responds to my voice commands. And she's still a little confused about that, so I start adding my leg lightly, waiting on her for full understanding so that I'm not sending her off in flight mode. And this does take some patience for some horses. She leaned forward a little bit there, lowered her head and relaxed, so that's why she got a reward of petting. I'm going to flex her neck just a little bit here, see if that might get her to move her feet. And she's still thinking about it, still wondering what is going on here. I want to make sure that her and I are both communicating together. Adding more pressure with my legs. And you'll see that I'll flip the bright of the rein there towards her head to encourage forward motion. Her answer to my request was to go backwards. And I just figure, okay, that's a try. And we'll just kind of keep going through it. So we're going to tip her head to the side, see if we can get her to turn. Often on the first ride with a horse, I will ride off in a circle, not straight off, because if they do decide to buck or blow up, you can control them better if they're already moving in a circle instead of a straight line. So with Philly here, we're adding a little more pressure. And she's starting to understand, and there she goes, taking her first few couple of steps, moving away from that nice, slow, gentle pressure where I've waited for her to be sure that she knows what I'm asking her to do. And she gets stuck there for a minute, and we'll ask again. And there she goes. It's a nice start. Again, she's still a little confused as to why she's doing this without a buddy on the ground. And I could kick her forward really hard, smack her on the hiney with the reins, but again, my goal is to keep everything calm and relaxed so that her first ride isn't scary. So I really take my time through working her on the first ride with me on her back so that she has nothing to worry about, so she doesn't make any negative connections with being rode. Because I want a good ride every time, which means a calm, relaxed, understanding horse. And she's licking and chewing, so she's really trying to understand. She just hasn't figured out what that leg pressure means yet, but she will. She'll get it. And when you first start riding a horse for the first time, it's kind of like riding a disconnected noodle. So they get going every which way. So it does take some redirection, both on the rider's part and the horse's part, to get together on the same page. And if you can hear me in the background, I'm constantly giving her verbal praise so that she knows she's doing a good job. My hands are forward, the reins are loose, there's no pressure in her mouth. I might flip the bright of the reins there towards her head just to back up the pressure on her sides to encourage her forward, but I'm not pulling on her face at all. And as we start to make our first turns, I'm going to give a nice wide opening rein. And my indirect rein is going to lay against the neck lightly on the opposite side. So in that right turn, I gave a nice opening rein with my right rein. And that left rein laid gently against her neck. And that's where we begin to teach her the basics of neck reining. So that when she starts to feel the pressure of the indirect rein against her neck, she's going to understand that that too means you need to turn away from pressure. And again, I really take my time to make it solid with these young horses, so that nothing's scary, everything's relaxed. And we're both having a good conversation about what's happening here today. That was a nice stop that she gave us for the first time, and a nice good straight back. As Philly gains more confidence with me on her back, I will start asking for more work out of her. So the more forward I feel her moving, the more relaxed her body feels, the lower her head goes, the more I can start applying pressure to move forward or give her a new challenge so that we can start developing her riding skills even further. Again, as she gains confidence, more development comes in her training. And again, we're laying the rein against the opposite side of her neck and giving her a nice wide opening turn. Philly's worked a lot with the ball and is very comfortable with it, but this is the first time she's actually made contact with it. And she's very curious about it. I was really excited to see her lay her lips on it and get really curious about it for the first time and actually touch it under saddle. So it made me feel she was really confident under saddle, as she hadn't done that with me on the ground. So I know she was feeling relaxed here and curious. Those ears are looking forward. She's not scared. She's doing a great job. She startled herself a little bit when she realized that she could move it, but she didn't quite understand why it moved. She wasn't really scared. She just eyeballed it there, wondering how she was able to make it move. That's a good learning experience for this young horse to understand that she has some sort of power to work through the things that are scary. Picking up the trot there a little bit for the first time. So again, she got more confident through working the ball, so we asked for more as she gained her confidence, being to speed up and trot. And we needed to regroup for just a minute. She got a little too noodly. So we're going to bring her back down and see if we can get her body a little bit back working together as one piece. There you go, pick up the trot right off the leg there. Again, these young babies, they really are kind of funny to ride because they really kind of are riding like they're almost drunk because their legs just don't know where to go. She's learning to balance me on top of her back. There's a lot going on here mentally and physically to challenge them, which is why I prefer to take my time and really go slow. But whatever technique works for each individual trainer is the way to go. This is just how I do it. She wanted to spin out there a little bit with her haunches, so we're going to redirect her and keep her going forward in the direction that I wanted to go so that she doesn't get her way on that turn. Again, as she gains more confidence, we'll start pushing more. See if we can drive her into the lope here shortly. And she's got it for a few feet. She gets a little unbalanced and forgot where her feet, so she stops. But that's okay, so my goal is to regroup and we'll try again. There's no reason to punish her for something she doesn't yet understand, which is loping or cantering on with a person on her back for the first time. So we'll go back to something she knows quite easily before we ask for that lope or canter again. And again, like I said, this filly's a little on the lazy side today for the first ride. Now that she's feeling a little more confident, I feel comfortable using the tail end of my reins there to pop her on the rear end for a little extra encouragement, and she's okay with that. So that's all a good sign that she's relaxed, just needing a little extra encouragement. I'll try for this lope again. Again, a lot of this is just her needing to find her balance with somebody moving around on her back. And she'll power down when she gets confused. That's kind of what she does. So we'll get her going again. And again, as she's more confident, more comfortable, I feel comfortable asking her to work with a little bit more enthusiasm or direct contact there with the end of the reins. She's got some nice turns working here. If you watch, her feet are crossing over in the front. This little mare shows a lot of good potential. She's an athletic little horse that just needs to access all of her abilities. You can see now that, 10 minutes into the ride or so, she's starting to understand that pressure on her sides needs to move forward, that the reins mean to turn. And again, she's already learning to neck rein right from the beginning. And she's responding really nicely to those turns, really light in the bridle, just doing a good job, paying attention, learning, and understanding all at the same time. And we'll back again. As for the whoa and back, which was a nice little stop. Good back. And I always walk my horses out of the back. The first ride on this filly, I think, went really, really well. I'm happy with her disposition. I'm happy with how calm she is. I'm happy that I'm not seeing ear pinning or teeth grinding or foot stomping or any aggressive behavior. No intention to get me off of her back, nothing like that. Especially after all the growing pains we went through the previous week prior to this ride. So I'm very pleased with this horse. She's doing a great job, and lots of pets and scratches are well deserved for this great first ride on filly. Thank y'all for watching.